Now we have Karla Fales from Carewell Services with us. Good morning, Karla.
Good morning, Tim.
Very nice to see you today. And you're not even on stage doing local theater. You've been doing a bunch of that lately, haven't you?
I have. It's fun. Keeps my brain moving.
You did Little Women down at the Quonset Hut Theater in Athens, and now you're up in Delton doing another show pretty soon, huh?
Yes, we are.
Well, good for you. That's
Thanks.
good, And now we've got you on stage again, so I guess I don't have to worry about you having stage fright.
Not at all.
You got some programs coming up that focus on various aspects of getting older in America, and one of them is that issue of stay or move, which is a really critical one, and we're very privileged to have a speaker coming in to do a presentation on May 15th, a week from today, isn't it? And we welcome her on the line right now from, I believe, Toronto, Marie-Claude Giguere. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Tim. It's Montreal, actually.
So that's quite a ways away. You're going to have to fly here. You can't exactly drive, right?
No, I'll be flying.
Montreal. And, I think probably when we talk about these issues, it's almost universal. I mean, there are probably a few differences with different governments and countries and cultures, but a lot of the questions are the same, aren't they?
From where I visited in the world, yes, whenever I talk about aging, the issues seem to be the same. Mm-hmm.
Now, Karla, how did this idea of having these conferences come about, and this particular one?
Well, interestingly enough, it was a chance meeting on the street in Washington, D.C. I bumped into Marie-Claude. We had the opportunity to have breakfast at a conference, and we really hit it off, and I was amazed with the work that she was doing and how she had taken a personal experience and navigated that into helping other people. And so for a number of years now, I have wanted to bring her in to have these kind of difficult conversations, and this presented the opportunity with Older Americans Month happening.
And the conversation that we're talking about that we're going to focus on mostly today is that idea that at some point the home that you may have lived in for 50 years is just not working anymore, that it's time to do something different. And I guess some people embrace that and some people resist that, and caregivers and children and grandchildren tear their hair out, but I guess so do the homeowners. I mean, this is a tough thing, isn't it, Marie? And there are a few things a few taboos that surround the subject.
I might be too young to understand all of this, Tim, at this point, but I think for some reason we stop planning. We think, we plan our families, we plan where we're going to live, we're going to have children, where we're going to work, and then retirement. And then after retirement, we stop planning, and I think that's one of the biggest issues. I also think that we're so afraid of, the changes and the loss of autonomy that we don't want to talk about it. And one of the big issues that I think of is the language that we use, actually, when we think of, having to downsize or having to move. Often we talk about placing my mom or putting my mom somewhere, and I think that word put or place really closes down the conversation, so we just avoid the whole conversation. And I think those are the major taboos that this kind of subject faces.
I think this subject coming up, it just means that a lot has to change, that we're at a milestone, we're at a turning point. And we don't want to think about that way. As long as we put it out of our mind, then we can just go on living in that house we've always lived in and not even think about it.
We also live in an
but
area.
When that house becomes a trap, then that becomes an issue. There's no point living in an insecure or unsecure and feeling unsafe in our own environment. We need to feel safe where we are.
Right.
Marie-Claude hit it perfectly. We don't want to have the conversation, sometimes we also don't look at it more broadly to say, what are the options that could allow me to achieve my goals? And one of the things in this area especially is we have a very strong housing bias. People are very attached to their homes. Sometimes they've been in the family for a long time. We're not as much of a transient mobile community where you have areas where people move from apartments throughout their life. And so there's a lot of emotions that go with the idea of the home. We're in the process, hopefully, of rehabbing a 137-year-old family farmhouse. There's a lot of opinions and a lot of emotions that go with that connection. And so I think one of the things we're trying to do in terms of addressing the taboos is the fact that it's okay to have those conversations. It's okay to identify the emotions that go with that decision making, and that's one of the things we want people to talk about.
Absolutely. In my parents' case, and they're in the mid to upper 80s now. The house my dad built in '63 that we all grew up in, they announced a few years ago, well, we're going to be selling the house. And, their attitude was great. My brother and I, not so much, because we got very attached to that, too. That was our place to come home to visit. They had a big woods where we could go out and do all kinds of stuff. So it was very hard, but, I got to hand it to them. They said, we're going to do it in 2 years. Here's what we're going to do between now and then. And then we're going to put it up, and when it sells, then we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And, boy, I got to tell you, they were right on the money with their planning. It's not always that way, though, is it?
No, it's not. But it's beautiful when it does work, and it's beautiful to have that conversation and to have it open and to invite your children in and say, this is what I'm doing and this is how I'm going to do it. And if you want to help, you can help at this stage. It's always beautiful to see it when a senior does take on, it's their life. It's their story. It's all about them, and they're the ones who need to write it. So it's beautiful when it happens like that.
Well, I think either way, whether it's the person living in the home who's resistant, or the kids or the other family members, just bringing that conversation up and talking about it, then you got time to digest it, and that might take weeks or months or even a year. But all of a sudden, you can kind of come around to realizing the pros and cons of a situation, and that's what you have to do, right? Karla?
Yes, and you can add an S to years, actually. Sometimes it does take years. It is a process, and it is a conversation, and it's never static because there's always things moving. Life is happening all the time where, illness happens or something happens. A car accident changes everybody's, path and stuff, so it's always got to stay on our toes.
What are some of the biggest resistance points that you hear from both, people living in the home and the family members?
I think a lot of it is denial. No, not my mom. My mom's not forgetful. No, not me. I'm not that old. Or sometimes from my peer pressure saying, no, but your house is so beautiful. You're okay there. I've worked with a lady who, she was widowed, had a mortgage on her house, was 75, was anxious, and her doctor said she was too young to move. So she stayed there, and then she became stuck by the stairs, and the laundry was downstairs. So there's a lot of fears of the unknown. There's a lot of, I don't know who to turn to talk to about this. There's so much to consider. A lot of stuckedness emotionally as well. I know that's not really a word, but just being stuck emotionally and just not accepting where we're at and who we're at today.
Marie-Claude Giguere is our guest. She'll be speaking here next Tuesday at the Cool Family Center. And should I stay or should I move? Karla Fales is with Carewell Services, and she is with us as well. Tell us more about what you have planned next week.
Sure. We have two events on Tuesday, the Should I Stay or Should I Move? That's open to anyone. It is particularly looking at those older adults that are asking those questions. And it's not just about whether or not to move or to not move. It's what can I do if I want to stay, and how do I have those discussions with my family members. You mentioned the planning that your parents went through. How do I start that process? And so that's Tuesday at 11:30. It is a lunch and learn, and so people are invited to attend that. The evening event is focused on adults with older parents, and it's called My Parents Are So Darn Stubborn. I'm sure none of us have experienced that. And that is going to be at the First Congregational Church from 5:30 to 7:30. Again, there will be Fire Hub is providing the meal.
Oh.
And so that's going to be an important discussion because Marie-Claude sort of gave the indication of the bi-directional process we go through in that, the kids have one thought, the parents have another. And so we wanted to have some discussions that included both of those components of the decision-making process.
In my own case, I think it was my parents that initiated that whole conversation. Marie-Claude, is that sort of the exception? Is it usually the kids or the caregivers that have to bring this up?
My experience is that it's often the kids who bring it up. The seniors who do bring it up themselves are usually the women who never married, who never had children, or couples who never had children. they end up being more independent with their conversation because they're not depending on anybody. But I find that when we have families, often, well, my children will take care of me. And for me, it's like, no, it's not about your children. It's about you, because you know yourself best and you know your own situation. So, yes, usually it is the children who do bring it up because they're the ones who want to find some kind of solution for their parents.
So how do you bring that up?
It can't be in a heated moment. You got to put yourself in their shoes when you do see your parent losing some autonomy. It's hard. There's a lot of mourning that happens, I believe, with aging and, losses and not hearing as well, not seeing as well, not being as sturdy on your feet. So it can't come up when it's a heated moment or when you're angry and you just want to find a solution. And, you don't want to push anybody. You want to encourage. And it's all about the language you use and how you say it and how you open up that conversation. It's a very delicate one, and to pay attention to that.
Yeah, and I guess it varies from family to family and the type of, maybe dad is more receptive to one way of discussing than another. But I would imagine, after a family dinner where everybody's having a good time and you're sitting around waiting for dessert, maybe a good time to say, hey, this is really great. Have you thought about what's next? and just plant the seed, right?
Sometimes it depends who's. Yeah, and sometimes it depends who's opening up that conversation too. Like sometimes a sibling is a little bit more irritated all the time with mom and dad, so maybe they're not the best ones to bring it up. So it's always got to see who's around the table and what's the best way to do it. Sometimes it's outside raking the leaves together when it's more of a calm moment, or doing the dishes side by side.
So I'm hearing maybe a family meeting without mom and dad. To discuss who can be maybe the best person to initiate this discussion.
That helps too, yes.
Yeah. You had one other thing, Karla, going on Wednesday night, a week from tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's Wednesday morning, actually.
Oh, Wednesday morning, yeah.
Wednesday morning. And we have a lot of people in the community that encounter older adults, real estate agents, financial planners, bank personnel, that sometimes they're able to help people start to have some thoughts regarding this. I think of mechanical folks that go into homes and see people not navigating quite as well. And so we're offering a professionals breakfast at 7:30 on Wednesday, and just talking about how to help individuals navigate a potential move, or at least start having the conversation. Sometimes those observations from those folks outside the family can help. The other thing we want to be sure is that these folks that are able to have at least introduce the topic have a resource, and they know who to call in the community, agencies like ours that can have some of those conversations or give resources and do things like that. I mean, I remember you guys have Daryl Burke on all the time. When my in-laws had an issue, Daryl was the first one I called to say, I'm not sure their house can be adapted. I need an honest opinion. And, those are the folks that sometimes can help people start to say, you might want to talk to the family about this. This is getting more difficult, and it's a good time to have the conversation. So that's targeted at them. It's at 7:30 a.m. at North Point Woods on Wednesday, the 16th.
Helping clients navigate a potential move. And a week from today at 11:30 in the morning, should I stay or should I move? And that's the title of the book, basically, Stay or Move, How to Talk to a Senior About Their Changing Needs in Retirement Residences. It's an award-winning book by Marie-Claude Giguere. Where can we get a copy of that?
Oh, if they come to the event, I might be able to arrange that.
So we're going to have a stack of them there?
We hope, yes.
Maybe signed?
Maybe.
Yes.
Well, that would be, and if we can't make it, is it available online?
Yes, it is.
All right, so we'll just do the search.
On Amazon.
Somebody needs help, they can call me up, and we'll help them do that. But it's a tough subject, and it'll be very interesting to see what you have to say to the people who come to the Cool Family Center next Tuesday morning. Marie-Claude, thank you for joining us today. It's been very interesting.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you, Karla.
Karla, we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.